Everyone knows that the Chiefs are the current standard in the NFL after back-to-back Super Bowl championships, 3 championships in 5 seasons. Can they be copied? Will other teams emulate the Chiefs' blueprint? And if so, is it a wise idea?
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to another edition of Locked On NFL. I'm James Rapien, solo today. That's all right. Really excited to be with you. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. And here on Locked On NFL, well, we cover all things National Football League 5 times a week. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And like I said, thank you so much for making us your first listen. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Kansas City Chiefs, whether you want to call them a dynasty, we could debate that all day long. They're certainly in that mix. I think they're one away from establishing themselves as that. I just think it's only been 5 years. It's got to be a little longer than that. To be an official dynasty, right? Warriors probably on the outside looking in of the dynasty talk. But regardless, they're the standard. And I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. And we'll get to that coming up in just a bit. But to me, and by the way, Chris Carter out today, James Rapien with you. I'll be back with Chris next week. But I look at the Chiefs, and you've seen it. I know you've seen it. The Tyreek Hill. Oh my goodness, the Chiefs traded their best weapon, and look at them now. Look at what they got. They cleared cap space. They were able to get Trent McDuffie and Sky Moore and Rashee Rice and Keandre Coburn, and they still have a 5th rounder in this year's draft, all for Tyreek Hill. And they won back-to-back Super Bowls without Tyreek Hill, and every team should do this. And, well, I'm here to tell you that if you think your favorite team should emulate the Kansas City Chiefs, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. Odds are, though, they don't have the best head coach in the game right now. And that's exactly what Andy Reid is. Odds are they don't have the best, unless you're a Chiefs fan, you don't have the best quarterback in the game right now. And when it comes to emulating the Chiefs and copying the Chiefs blueprint, I think every team should do it. Every single team should want to have an elite secondary, should want to have an elite pass rush led by Chris Jones, who's just a complete game wrecker. There aren't many game wreckers in the NFL. He is one of them. Every team should want to have a Hall of Fame pass catcher who performed his best when the season was on the line in the playoffs, even though he's 34 years old, future Hall of Famer, arguably the greatest tight end of all time in Travis Kelce. Every team should want those things. Every team should want the best interior line outside of a few teams, certainly a top 5 interior offensive line. What do I mean by that? I mean both guards and center. I mean, Creed Humphrey, I know Joe Thuney missed a couple of playoff games. Joe Thuney's up there with the best guards in the league, and Trey Smith is really, really good, and Smith and Humphrey are on rookie contracts. All of that is really, really hard to accomplish. And so this idea that, you can trade away your best weapons and you go after the corner. Well, what if that corner isn't elite? What if Trent McDuffie was just okay? What if they found a solid corner with the 21st pick in the 2022 NFL draft and not a stud? Changes everything. And that's why it's so simple until you say it out loud and you look around and you realize Patrick Mahomes has a ton around him. It's just not what we're used to seeing. It's not the, oh my goodness, spread them out. We're going to lean on Tyreek Hill's speed, and we're going to lean on Travis Kelce over the middle, even though he's double teamed. He's going to catch 12 passes today, and Tyreek Hill's going to have 552 yards after the catch. This team is built different, but they're still built to win. You can win multiple ways, especially when you have an elite quarterback. And the Chiefs chose a direction. And I think that's something that every team can emulate. All right, Have a vision, look at your personnel, what makes the most sense. In reality, the Chiefs have failed to a degree to replace Tyreek Hill. They've spent a lot of money on Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They drafted Sky Moore, who is, I don't want to deem him a bust yet, but he certainly underperformed over the past couple of years. And Rashee Rice, yeah, it looks like they got it right with him, but he's not Tyreek Hill. And so how did they replace him? How did they make it work? How did they overcome that? By reconstructing their team, by saying, we're going to be heavy defense. We're going to lean on this defense. We're going to get elite players in the secondary to go with Chris Jones, to go with a George Karlaftis who's emerging in the trenches as well. And you look up and you say, all right, pretty good pass rush, elite defense overall, really good linebackers, great secondary, really good running game, and the best quarterback in the game, plus Travis Kelce. It's easy to see why the Chiefs are where they are. And a lot of high-end quarterbacks could win with these pieces. Now, Mahomes has had to evolve, and I think that that's something that he deserves a ton of credit for. Outside of the lone interception in Super Bowl 58, he was doing exactly what they needed him to do, which is don't turn the ball over, don't take unnecessary risks, lean on this defense, lean on the running game. Oh, and by the way, it does help, speaking of running game, when you land Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, and he's an absolute stud. Isaiah Pacheco, I know he didn't play great in the Super Bowl, but he is a stud. It's just, there are a lot of ways to win. You can win with weapons, and the Chiefs have showed us that. They hit a crossroads with Tyreek Hill where he wanted more money than they were willing to pay. They got a lot in return for him, and they got it right in the draft. But it's really, really hard to do that and move on. Let's think of some of the best weapons in the league. Do you think the Vikings would be better if they traded Justin Jefferson and didn't pay him? That's insane. If you're not a Vikings fan, you probably want Justin Jefferson to be available via trade. So say it out loud. Should the Eagles move on from A.J. Brown because they have Devonta Smith and they can use that on the secondary? No. I don't think that's even remotely something that they would consider, and they shouldn't consider it. So just because the Chiefs made this work, and it was the perfect cocktail of things around Mahomes, just in a different way, doesn't mean that the Eagles should do it. Doesn't mean that all these other teams should do it. And yet, some of the things that they've done make a ton of sense, and teams should emulate. But this idea that getting rid of your weapons is going to make you better, it's not. The Chiefs would have been much better with Tyreek Hill offensively. I don't know if they would have won back-to-back Super Bowls. It would have looked much different than it has the past couple of years, especially this year, where the defense, it really did. The defense carried them in key moments, and they did it again against the 49ers. How? By getting stops. You force a field goal with 2 minutes to go, and you get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. You get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes in overtime, even though he was getting the ball anyway, 49ers. You do those things when you only need a touchdown in overtime to win the game. You don't need the extra point. You can go for it. You have the benefit of that. Makes a ton of sense to me. So I get it. The Chiefs, what they've done, it's amazing. But this idea that every team should just go out and do that, I don't buy it. At the same time, they deserve a ton of praise, and having an elite defense, having an elite interior offensive line, it is certainly big to have for any quarterback. Up next, let's look at the Super Bowl 59 odds. It'll be in New Orleans next year. And man, oh man, I'm a bit surprised. I got to admit, I'm a bit surprised because there is no way that the Chiefs shouldn't be favored. They're not. Find out who is coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So you can take that $150 in bonus bets and spread it out across multiple different sports platforms or sports organizations, from the NBA to March Madness right around the corner to NFL futures. We're going to get into those Super Bowl 59 futures coming up. So from quick bets to live same game parlays to exclusive props and so much more, FanDuel has you covered. Take advantage of this bonus offer right now. If you're a new customer, $5 winning bet gets you $150. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Shoot your shot with FanDuel. FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Okay, let's get to these FanDuel odds and keep it going, because to me, I see the FanDuel odds and I look and I'm like, are we kidding? The San Francisco 49ers open as the Super Bowl 59 favorites, plus 500. As I look at the FanDuel odds currently, the Kansas City Chiefs behind them at plus 650. I'm going to read the top. Let's go top 8. The Ravens behind them at plus 900. Lions plus 1,200, tied with the Bills for the fourth best odds, plus 1,200. The Bengals at plus 1,500 alongside the Cowboys at plus 1,500. And then the Eagles at plus 1,700. The Dolphins at plus 2,000. The best bet here is the Chiefs. It is the Chiefs. I don't know what's going to happen with Chris Jones, but do you want to bet against Patrick Mahomes? I'm one of those that thought that the 49ers would beat the Chiefs. I am. But when I look at this, I don't know how in the world the Chiefs aren't the favorites again. I really don't. Because if they lose Chris Jones, they'll have money to spread it elsewhere. And they can take that and get whatever else. They'll probably get better at wide receiver. They'll probably invest in weapons this offseason. There's so many things they could do to get their team better and be right there again. And so to me, the Chiefs, without a doubt, should be the favorites. The betting favorites should be the safe bet if you want to go futures bet wise for Super Bowl 59 at this stage, because they have the best coach and the best quarterback. And when you have that, I've said it for a decade with the Patriots, a decade plus. You have the best coach and the best quarterback, you're always going to have a chance. There's never going to be a game where you feel like you can't go in and win, even if you're on the road, even if you're an underdog, even if Travis Kelce's nicked up or not playing at the level that you're used to. You still feel good about your chances. And I think the Chiefs are there. Now, as I look at these, that doesn't mean that there aren't other bets that are interesting. And in some of these teams, they have a long way to go, but like, could Jacksonville figure it out? Could the Rams? Both of those guys are plus 3,000. The Falcons, I think they're a bit away. I think if they had Bill Belichick, they would have been in more win now mode. I think they'll take the I don't even want to say slow build approach, but the gradual build where maybe they win the division this year, but aren't necessarily Super Bowl contenders. But there aren't many teams that I like from a dark horse standpoint more than the Green Bay Packers. They have a young quarterback who could take a step, and it's obviously flashed and really developed in Jordan Love. He might be the best quarterback in the conference in the NFC going into 2024. And I look at what they have in Green Bay. They have a ton of, I think they have 4 top 100 picks in the draft. Maybe they don't use all those. Maybe they trade that for proving talent. They're going to have money to use. I think the Packers could be right there in the mix. I would fade Miami a bit. I think that they are teetering as it is, and they may have to talk about a team that needs to reconstruct a bit. That could be a team that goes that route. I think a lot of people are going to be in on the Lions, and we'll see what they do. I think it's going to be tough for them to duplicate what they did this year. At the same time, might be able to do that. Now, will they extend Jared Goff? I think that's a big offseason question. The Bills, I would fade them. Cowboys, I would fade them. I do think the Chargers are kind of sneaky with Jim Harbaugh, plus 3,000. He wins, and he has a track record of winning. Now, will he win the Super Bowl next year? I wouldn't bet on it, but I do think it's an interesting play right now where the odds are. So ultimate value, I think that's where I'd be at. But why would you ever bet against the Chiefs? That's what I come back to. I mean, I think a lot of people think they're a dynasty. They're certainly close to it if they're not. And is it ending anytime soon? I don't think it is. I do think they're built the right way. And just because something's built the right way doesn't mean you can copy it and make it your own. All right. Good luck building a pyramid. They were built the right way. Good luck trying to emulate that and build that. Right. Do we see any? Look around. You see any? Maybe on your shelf. not in real life. And I know it's not the perfect analogy, but it's true. It's really hard to emulate best head coach, best quarterback, and invest in the right pieces and have the right guys fall to you in the draft, whether it's corner, whether it's offensive line. And they've had it. It's happened. And so we'll see. But I think the Chiefs, that would be the team as of right now that I would wager on. And if I'm looking at these, why would you doubt them? I think it's silly to be quite honest. Could that change in free agency next month? Yeah, it could. Could it change with the draft in just over 2 months? Absolutely, it could. Could things feel different even after the combine later this month in Indianapolis? Absolutely. So let's go there next, because to me, there are multiple quarterbacks that are going to go in round one. Everyone knows that. How many could go in round one? Plus a few other names to know ahead of the 2024 NFL draft that I think are going to rise and continue to show people that they're top prospects, even if they might be going under the radar right now. So we'll do that coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors, and eBay Motors is exactly what you need for your vehicle. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home that winning trophy is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whatever you're looking for. eBay Motors will have it with over 122 million parts. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. How many quarterbacks will go in the first round of the NFL draft? That's a big debate, a big discussion point. And Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, NFL.com, tweeted over the weekend that teams look at the 2025 quarterback class and are going to be all in on this quarterback class, trying to move up, trying to get their guy. And you look at the free agent crop, Kirk Cousins coming off of an Achilles. You have Justin Fields out there. I think he'll get traded. You don't have a lot. And so when I look at these draft odds or draft chances, rather, of who could go where, I have at minimum 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. I do. I think 4 in the top 10, not first round, top 10. And it starts with Caleb Williams. I think Drake May will be in there, although I would have Jaden Daniels ahead of Drake May. All 3 of those guys seem like top 10 lots. And the one that's going to surprise some people, and I've mentioned this some on different platforms, but I want to make sure I mention it here on Locked On NFL. JJ McCarthy is going to go in the top 10. Maybe it's Atlanta. I could see Atlanta liking him a lot. He would make a lot of sense in that dome too. I think that there could be multiple teams in on him. Maybe a team moves up for him. JJ McCarthy has a huge arm. He's going to run well at the combine later this month. And he's going to pass Michael Penix. I think he'll go ahead of Bo Nix. And those 2 guys, Penix and Nix, and heck, I'll throw Spencer Rattler in there. Those 3 guys need to show the league that they are worthy of first-round picks. And Rattler's probably 7th in public perception of the guys I've just mentioned. But that doesn't mean he didn't have a really impressive Senior Bowl based on just talking to guys throughout the league and scouts and not just guys, but talking to people throughout the league. So when I look at this quarterback class, if next year it's Shedeur Sanders and insert whoever else, could teams look at this and say, hey, we want to get that 5th-year option with Penix. We want to get that 5th-year option with Bo Nix, who it felt like he played forever, but he's not, he's an older prospect, but it's not like he's 25, and it feels like he's 25, but he's not. He was really productive for Oregon. I think if I had to predict the order, it would be Caleb Williams. For me, Jaden Daniels. Even though if I'm Daniels, I would rather go to New England than Washington. I would say Jaden Daniels goes to Drake May 3. And then JJ McCarthy, I think someone could try to move up with Arizona. I think there could be a team that moves up to maybe 5 with the Chargers. And Harbaugh's like, okay, well, I'm going to give my guy JJ a bone here, and he can be the 5th pick in the draft. I'll trade back, and boom. It would not shock me. And that doesn't mean these quarterbacks are the best prospects in the class. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors are insane prospects. Neighbors is so much fun to watch. I mean, there's going to be people that say he's the best LSU wide receiver prospect. That's going to happen over the next 2 months. I promise. Maybe as soon as the combine, maybe you're already seeing it. He's legit. And so I think his floor is probably 7 to Tennessee, but the quarterbacks throw a wrench in everything. And so JJ McCarthy, there might be a team really interested in him, and a team moves up to 7 with the Titans, and the Titans drop back because they need a lot roster-wise, and they want to add assets here as they try to rebuild. So it is going to be a really interesting draft season, given what Daniel Jeremiah said. And so if I had to predict today how many first-round quarterbacks, I would say 5. I think 4 go in the top 10, and then there would be a 5th in there that goes at some point. And maybe you get a 6th at the back end, like the Lamar Jackson effect, where the Ravens moved back up and took him at 32, which a lot of teams are kicking themselves for letting that happen. But you could see 5 or 6 quarterbacks go. And I totally get it. I do. Now, this idea, I kind of dance around this with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams goes number 1 to the Bears. I think they trade Justin Fields. Where Fields goes could certainly be interesting. Everyone always mentions Atlanta because you're talking about a dome, you're talking about an athletic quarterback. It just feels right. And I think that makes sense. I do wonder, though, could Pittsburgh get in on a guy like Justin Fields? That's a team, to me, that does not have a starting quarterback right now. Not a quality franchise quarterback, at least. You have a starting quarterback, but a franchise quarterback. They moved on from Mitch Trubisky earlier this week, and I think they're going to reconstruct that room a bit. Why not? Now, there's rumblings about them going after Ryan Tannehill, too. Hey, maybe it's Ryan Tannehill and Justin Fields. That's not a bad one, too. That's really not. But you have Kenny Pickett on the rookie deal. What do you do with him? Probably keep him. It's still first-round money, so he's probably your backup. But wouldn't you rather have a veteran behind Fields? I think it's really, really interesting, though, all of it. And so we'll see how that plays out. But just another team for Fields that I think is really, really interesting would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you could throw out all the usual suspects, right? And whether it's the Patriots, who I thought they were the perfect fit for Fields when he was drafted a few years ago. Obviously, it hasn't worked in Chicago up to this point. Maybe it'll work later. But, man, it is a fun draft. I think wide receiver is a really fun, to me, high-end position in this draft. There's a lot of guys that on day 1 and day 2 could make an impact early in their NFL careers. Probably drops off after that. But just some initial thoughts. Everyone's going to talk about the offensive tackles. I think so many are going to go that if you don't get one early by pick 55, pick 60, you're probably not getting a plug-and-play type of guy or a building block initially. Now, this is probably going to change some of these statements I'm making as we move forward and get closer to the combine, get removed from the combine and look at everything as a whole. But I do think it's really, really interesting how the team building aspect of things, with how the Chiefs have done it, how these other teams are looking to emulate them in some ways, and how many will, because there will be teams that try to emulate the Chiefs. There's no doubt. And so will a team try to trade? Like if you're the Raiders, do you try to trade Devontae Adams, or do you continue to build around him? I haven't looked at the cap number. I'm literally just throwing it out from a team building perspective. You could make the argument that trading would make a lot of sense. So all I know is I'm not sure what trades are going to happen, but I do know we're going to be covering it right here on Locked On NFL each and every day. So please subscribe on YouTube, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And for Chris Carter, who will be back with me next week, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Locked On NFL.